Welcome to another video. So this is another session of analyzing our locals. And recently I've been trying to look for two-handed bowlers to review, and I want to review especially Singaporean bowlers if possible, as compared to the overseas pros because their body structure is quite different. So I happened upon this video, which is Jay's two-handed bowling lesson. So basically, in this lesson, it seems to be have been recorded probably by his father or his mother. You can see that Jay is a young bowler here, taking lessons from one of our established local coaches, Mr. Michael Lee. So I personally have learned a lot from Mr. Michael Lee as well. So I highly respect him, and he's very experienced. Lots of experience as well. He's been so you can see here that this center is Forte Bowl, which is in Hougang. It's near the Kovan MRT. Pretty good center and very affordable coaching rates. So many of the coaches are actually based there or have their lessons there because they make it really easy and really affordable for people to take coaching. Like the coaching fees, the rental fees for the lanes are really affordable. So it's a good recommended place if you want to like ask a coach to coach you there. Because maybe due to the cheaper lane fees, they might be able to give you cheaper rates. So as we see Jay doing what we call the one-step drill here, and he's swinging his ball, getting in momentum first, and then before on the top of the swing, he will move forward and he will release the ball. So nothing wrong. Actually, he's doing the drill pretty good. You can see here that he does lose balance a little bit. So this is also very pretty typical of for young bowlers when they are as young as Jay, probably like 10 years old, like 10 years old or low or below, because their body is not very strong yet. They aren't very well developed, especially their legs. So asking them to maintain this, to balance well in this finishing position is pretty tough, especially if they haven't like done a lot of squats or trainings to strengthen their legs yet. But they're still in a very early developmental stage, so hence this is also expected. But other than that, his form is pretty good. Coach Michael Lee has coached him pretty well. So certain things we can sort of like learn from Jay is that if you notice, Jay's ball actually doesn't hook; it goes straight. So why does a two-handed bowler throw a straight ball? Because I mean, obviously Jay wanted to hook the ball, is my assumption here. But if you can see here, okay, this is a good place to pause. You can see here that Jay, right, has his hand too high up. Because for two-handed bowlers, right, our benefit is that since we don't have the thumb inside the ball, since our thumb is out of the ball, right, what we can do instead is since our thumb, I mean, we're not constrained by the thumb hole, our palm is able to go to the bottom of the ball. That means we can wrap at the bottom of the ball so that we can literally cradle the ball in the middle of our palm and have the thumb on the outside surface cover stock of the ball. So that is what Jay should have been doing. So most two-handed bowlers or most decent two-handed bowlers, you should see their hands should be near the bottom of the ball. This is where you can get the most lift. And with lift comes rotation. And if you just turn your wrist to what we call the from the 6 o'clock position to the 5 o'clock position, that means a little bit right side rotation of your wrist, and you apply lift on it, that is where you will see the hook motion. That means you will see the ball rotate. So the ball will rotate this way, right? And then as it goes down the lanes, it will generally have a curve towards the left, right? That's what we call hook motion. So here Jay is having his hands right behind the ball, which is also typical thing for very new two-handed bowlers or very young two-handed bowlers who are just learning two-handed. Then they don't understand that their palm should be underneath the ball. Instead, they just leave their palm behind the ball, have one hand in front of the ball, have one hand behind the ball. And what they do is, like Jay here, they will push the ball instead of lifting the ball. So Jay here pushes the ball. You can see his, let's replay that motion again. See, he pushes the ball right here. Let's see if we can freeze frame it. Yeah, here. So at this exact motion, Jay is pushing the ball forward with his right palm instead of lifting it upwards like this. So he's pushing it forward. So maybe this is not such a good line. We can use the arrow is pushing it forward like this. So obviously the ball just goes rolls forward, right? So instead, what you should have been doing is you should be lifting upwards. Lifting upwards with a good follow through towards his head, or better yet, with the follow through above his head, lift the ball so that it creates rotation on the ball. And then with rotation, if you rotate at a certain angle, like I mentioned, E6. So starting the palm at 6 o'clock, and then you rotate to the 5 o'clock position. This is the 5 o'clock position, and then you apply lift to the ball. Then you will create rotation in the 5 o'clock direction, and your ball will generally have a hook or curve towards the left side of the loop. Right. So that is one of the key mistakes that why Jay's bowling ball just, or his bowling shot just goes straight. Another thing is it also has to do with the fact that he doesn't have his hand underneath the ball. If you notice, his arm here is pretty bent at the bottom of the swing. Okay, let me see if we can get a better view. Right, maybe we can get a better view here. Yeah, this is where we can get a better view here. So at the bottom of the swing, that means right before when you release the ball, his elbow is still bent. Let's see, we can get a good view here. Right here. Right here, his elbow is still bent. So since his elbow is bent, that is also another common mistake for not even new two-handed bowlers. I've been seeing this sort of like this happening even among the more adult two-handed bowlers. Like I've seen quite a few league bowlers in the Singapore bowling scene. They convert from one hand to two hand, and they're strong. They're strong male adult bowlers. Definitely more than they can confidently handle a 15-pound ball, no problem. Maybe even 16 pounds. But most of them have this error, so-called. I consider this a mistake. That means when they swing and when they release, their elbow is still bent rather than being straightened. If I'm able to cut in shots of like probably Jason Belmonte or Anthony Simonson or Carl Troup, you'll be able to see that their elbow is actually straight during release. So their arm is at the maximum length and their palm is at the bottom of the ball. So their palm is here at the bottom of the ball. And the key thing is that their elbow is straight. So then they can accelerate the ball and then generate a lot of lift on the ball. So what's the bad thing about this bent elbow here is that first and foremost, by keeping your elbow bent this way, right, you're reducing the length of your arm swing. So if we were to like have a blue line to indicate the length of your arm swing, the length of our arm swing is from, in this case for Jay's arm swing, is from here to here. If Jay had been able to straighten his arm swing, then his arm swing, if Jay's arm swing was totally straight, it should have been from here to probably here. This black line will be a lot longer than blue line, right? Maybe the black line is not so clear. Let's see if we can draw thicker lines to make it clearer. So right now, Jay's arm swing is only, okay, so this is the black line. So if Jay was fully able to extend his arm swing, it should have been this, right? But instead, what Jay is doing now, that means now with his elbow bent, his arm swing length is only here. So he has a shorter arm swing length, and with a shorter arm swing length, generally you suffer from slower ball speed. Because generally, if you apply the law of angular velocity, right, is the longer the radius of your swing, the faster, the more linear velocity you can generate. Because I mean, if you don't believe me, you can just try like just throwing maybe like a ping pong ball or a tissue paper. So if you keep your elbow bent all the way and then you throw the tissue paper, compared with straightening your elbow during the release of throwing that tissue paper, then you can compare which one will you be able to throw with a larger amount of force and with more velocity. I will probably guarantee you that if you straighten your elbow and then you snap your elbow straight on release and then you fling the tissue paper out, compared with keeping your elbow bent, your tissue paper will fly much further or with more velocity if your elbow was straight. Mainly this is because you are able, when you keep your elbow straight, your arm, the entire length of your arm is longer, and with a longer swing, you can generate more linear velocity. So it's as simple as that. So by keeping the elbow bend, you are suffering from slower ball speed. That is one. And then like Jay's here, like Jay here, he has an issue with keeping his hand under the bottom, at the bottom of the ball, because by keeping his elbow bent, he's not able to fully extend his arm to wrap the hand at the bottom. So there's another issue. And another third thing that is not so apparent is a issue of late release. I don't have a side view of this video to analyze, but the problem is that when, let's see if we can see here. So very typical is that when your elbow is bent, right, the release point, other than being right here, which is right here near the the base of your feet, right, the release point becomes further because your elbow is bent. You have this very angular downward swing, and then your release point becomes later in the swing. That means it's in front of Jay's body. So Jay's release point is in front of his body instead of right underneath his right shoulder. So ideally, the release point, the point where you release the ball, should be a bit earlier. That means you start the release before reaching the bottom of your swing, and then when you reach the bottom of your swing, which I indicate here in this blue, oops, maybe I can use a blue line here. Should I indicate here? Yeah, with this blue dot here. So this blue dot here should be your ideal release location, which is right underneath your right shoulder, then where you can have the most leverage and you can provide the most amount of lift to your bowling ball. So that is the ideal release location. But the problem with keeping your elbows bent during the whole two-handed arm swing is that most of the time your release will also be delayed because you have a very angular, let's see if I can draw here, you will have a very angular downswing. That means your downswing will go downwards instead of having it being smooth curve. So you have a downward angular arm swing instead of a smooth round arm swing. And the problem with this is that your release point becomes in front of your body. So now Jay's release point is at here, right? In front, you can see his hand. You can see that his palm is only leaving the ball at this point of time. That means where the ball is already in front of his right shoulder, almost in front of his, it goes in front of his eyes, and then it's releasing it late. So when you release late, you will have issues such as we call it negative axis rotation. You will have less time to generate lift of the ball because the earlier you can start lifting the ball, that means you can lift it right before reaching the bottom of the swing, and then you will be able to generate more rotation. So that means you have a lower ref rate. So if a lower ref rate, you have negative axis tilt, and I would also argue it is also harder to be consistent with a late release point, because what happens is that with a late release point, your ball, let's see whether if I can, your ball, right? Let's clear this up. So with your late release point, your ball will drop probably like here. Your ball will drop further in front of you, maybe not that far. Okay, let's clear this. Your ball usually drops here. Let's say imagine I'm drawing on the lane, right? So your ball drops here in front of you compared to the ideal release location should have been here, right at the base of your left feet. That means when it's near to your left feet, right below your right shoulder, if you're a right-hander. So your landing point, since your landing point is in front of you, it adds a lot of inconsistency to your release, because sometimes you might be landing it, maybe today you are pushing it a bit harder, right? You want to try to increase your ball. So you push a bit harder, your ball will land further from you. And then maybe tomorrow you are very relaxed. You had a very good day, you had a good 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep. So you're very relaxed. Then your arm swing is like a little bit more relaxed and you're able to release the ball a little bit closer to you. So you can see that you have, as long as you have a release point that's later than that means that is in front of your right shoulder. Your release point is, as long as your release point is in front of your right shoulder compared with directly underneath your right shoulder, you will also have the issue of inconsistent release. Inconsistent release point, or obviously you generate inconsistent release as well, which also affects your accuracy. Because let's say, let's use a fine one to draw. Let's say J is trying to hit the pin. Okay, for example, he's trying to hit the pin from pin 10. He's trying to hit pin 10 here, right? So if he has a late release point, the starting point is here, the ending point is here. Then if his landing point is here, you can see that his path has changed. Or maybe this is not so obvious. Okay, let's see. So if his landing point is here, right, maybe here, his path has changed just so slightly. It still looks similar, but just so slightly. But the point is that the landing path changes with, depends on your mood, I guess, or depends on your form on that day. So if your landing point frequently changes, it does sort of like affect your accuracy to a small degree as well. It's quite hard to illustrate this. It's probably easier if you're on the lane itself and you can experiment with lofting the ball, like releasing the ball later, compared with releasing the ball earlier. And you should be able to feel like there's a little bit, feels a little bit different on how you how you can hit your target if you were to loft your ball compared to how to hit your target if you're releasing the ball right at your left feet, right near to your left feet, underneath your right shoulder. Okay, so anything else to add? So these are mainly the main disadvantages of having the bent elbow release. That means other than that, not too many issues. So I did watch other videos on Jay's channel, and Jay is he's progressing well as a one-handed bowler. So it just seems like he's just taking maybe 1 or 2 lessons, 200 lessons from Michael Lee as a kid. He just wants to try it out, but seems like he has stuck to one-handed bowling. He prefers it that way, and it's fine. So just that I take this video as a good opportunity to point out some of the common mistakes for beginner two-handed bowlers, which is having the right palm behind the ball, which is a mistake, as you should have it underneath the ball. Behind and underneath, you definitely need to have a little bit of underneath the ball instead to provide lift on the ball. Okay, definitely need to have a little bit of underneath to provide lift on the ball, and also keeping it and having a bent elbow all the way throughout the swing is bad. I mean, you can have a bent elbow during the swing while you're swinging the ball, like let's say let's like when you're swinging the ball, like what Jay is doing here, you can keep your elbow bent. But as you release the ball on the downswing, that means as you release the ball here, at this point on the downswing, the elbow should be, let's use a straight line. The elbow should be straight, right? Should be straight so that you can release the ball right underneath your right shoulder and close to your left feet. So those are the common mistakes. Okay, and that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys again next time.